Hello, my name is Nicholas and I'm the Simon Sainsbury Curatorial Fellow for Renaissance Paintings here at the National Gallery. And I'm delighted to welcome you today to our newly redisplayed ground floor galleries, where I'm going to be talking about this beautiful depiction of the Annunciation, painted in the mid-15th century by the Florentine artist Fra Filippo Lippi. And I'm going to be asking the question, why does this painting take this particular shape? And what might that tell us about its original meaning and location? The picture illustrates the famous moment recorded in the Gospel of St. Luke, when the Archangel Gabriel descended from heaven to announce to Mary that she would bear the Son of God. Dressed in a white priestly vestment known as an alb, under a loose red mantle, the angel kneels in a walled garden. Known in Latin as a hortus conclusus, this was a frequently used symbol for Mary's virginity in late medieval and Renaissance paintings. Gabriel is shown with spectacular peacock feather wings, which have been gilded, incised, and then painted over with thin glazes of red, green, and blue to signify his holiness. Opposite, the Virgin Mary is depicted in a chamber adjoining her bedroom. She is seated in a chair draped with a lavish cloth of gold, indicating her importance. Gabriel has disturbed her in the act of reading, and a book lies open on her lap. Though we can't read the words written on its pages, the volume is probably intended to be the book of Isaiah from the Old Testament, in which it had been foretold that a virgin would bear the Son of God, the prophecy being fulfilled here at the Annunciation. Between the two figures is a stone urn filled with lilies, another traditional symbol of Mary's purity. Above, emerging from a dense group of dark clouds, we see the hand of God the Father, directing the descent of the Holy Spirit. Depicted in the form of a dove, the Spirit's movement is indicated by delicately rendered circles of gold, representing divine light. Unusually, Lippi shows the dove hovering directly in front of the Virgin's stomach, with golden rays shining from it. Light also shines from Mary's womb, extending towards the Holy Spirit. What Lippi seems to be showing us here is the actual moment Christ is about to be conceived. In depicting this encounter, the painter cleverly compresses different moments of the story into a single image. Reading from left to right, for example, we can witness the angel's arrival, and then follow him as he raises his hand to bless and greet the Virgin with the famous words, "Hail Mary, full of grace." The Virgin, bowing her head in humility, acknowledges her predetermined role in the history of Christian salvation, and we can imagine her response to Gabriel's salutation, "Behold, I am the handmaid of the Lord," about to be uttered. These phrases would have been very familiar to Renaissance viewers. In a sense, the image becomes participatory, encouraging the beholder to complete and expand the story, drawing on their own knowledge of what is happening to fill in these extra details. The earliest record we have of the Annunciation, and of its pendant, Lippi's Seven Saints, which is also in the gallery's collection, only dates back to the mid-19th century, but clues about their original context can be found within the pictures themselves. One such clue is their somewhat unusual shape. Both panels take the form of a lunette, with an arched top and a flat lower edge. So what might this suggest? The shape of the Annunciation indicates that it was likely created not for a religious setting, but for a domestic one. Paintings commissioned to decorate palaces in Italy could represent any number of subjects, from allegorical figures to scenes of contemporary or classical literature, and even to biblical narratives. Alongside its pendant, the Annunciation is first recorded in the former Palazzo Medici in Florence before 1848. Though we don't have earlier records, it is very likely that the two panels had a much longer history there, and they were probably commissioned to decorate a room in the palace during its reconstruction and refurbishment in the 1440s and 1450s. There are, in fact, various types of furnishing that the pictures could originally have been part of. It is possible, for instance, that they were incorporated into a lettuccio, a kind of ornamental daybed often lavishly decorated with paintings. They could, even, have served as the headboards for beds. Their surfaces, however, don't have the kind of scratches and scuffs we might expect to see if they had been used for parts of furniture like these. Instead, a more likely possibility is that they were meant to be displayed over doorways. The Annunciation was an appropriate image for placement on the threshold of a room. Not only was the scene important for its Christian message, but also generally served as an image signifying greeting or welcome. It could also be interpreted as representing an auspicious prelude or beginning for those entering a space. Other depictions of the same scene are known to have been used as overdoors in Florence during the 15th century, including another painted by Lippi himself, the Palazzo della Signoria, Florence's seat of government. The Annunciation was, in fact, an extremely popular image in the city. During the 15th century, the Feast of the Annunciation, celebrated on the 25th of March, marked the beginning of the new calendar year in Florence, and it was one of the city's most important religious celebrations. The city was also home to an important miraculous image of the Annunciation, housed at the Basilica of the Santissima Annunziata. According to legend, the face of the Virgin in this widely venerated fresco had been painted by an angel, giving it the authority of a true portrait of Mary herself. So, if our Annunciation was intended to be an overdoor in what must surely have been a lavishly furnished room, where was it originally, and who might have commissioned it? If we turn again to the painting, we find clues that might help provide some possible answers. On the low stone balustrade which separates the Virgin's house from the garden is a device of 3 feathers encircled by a ring, carved into the stonework. This was an emblem used by the Medici family, a sign which could be used to denote their ownership, patronage, or influence. Its appearance here strongly suggests that the painting was commissioned for a member of the family. Lippi's 7 saints, the pendant to the Annunciation, also links the pictures with the Medici, with each saint representing the name of a male member of the house, all shown seated around Florence's patron saint, John the Baptist. Precisely which member of the family commissioned the pictures, however, is more difficult to determine. One possible candidate is Piero di Cosimo de' Medici. Not only was he an active patron of the arts, he is also known to have taken an interest in the subject matter of our painting. Between 1448 and 1452, he undertook the refurbishment and embellishment of the chapel housing the miraculous fresco of the Church of the Annunziata. Both here and at other architectural projects he commissioned in religious spaces, Piero made extensive use of the Medici emblems, prominently including the 3 feathers encircled by a ring as part of the decorations on stonework, just like we see in Lippi's painting. His interest in miraculous Christian images and in adding his family emblems to his commissions makes him a compelling contender as the patron of Lippi's beautiful panels. The very particular way in which the Holy Spirit floats before the Virgin's womb and the painting's focus on divine light might also suggest Piero's patronage. This was an unusual way to depict the Annunciation, and Lippi was probably given specific instructions about how the patron wanted the scene to be represented. In fact, these 2 elements accord with ideas preached in the sermons of the influential Archbishop of Florence, Antonio Pierozzi, during the mid-15th century. Pierozzi was interested in the nature of material light and its relationship with immaterial and divine things, and had also turned a forensic attention to explaining the events of the Annunciation. Interestingly, he also had a close connection with the Medici and acted as a spiritual advisor to Piero's wife, Lucrezia Tornabuoni. His direct influence may have dictated the very specific way which Lippi composed his Annunciation. Another question to which we don't have a definite answer is exactly where Lippi's pictures were installed at the Palazzo Medici. The paintings were not included in the extensive inventory taken there in 1492. Since they were likely in the palace, however, they may simply have been in a room which was not included in this list of goods. Only one room omitted from the document seems suitable for such beautiful and impressive paintings: the family library. Perhaps Lippi's overdoors, then, were installed here as part of the room's furnishings, possibly either side of a doorway, but where they could have been seen by members of the family and by their close associates. The prominent presence of the Medici emblem at the forefront of the composition shows not only that the painting was commissioned by the family, but also might reflect the intended meaning of the picture more generally. Positioned as they are, the ring and feathers appear to be part of the Virgin's house, part of the building she was living in when she received the news that she would bear the Son of God. In a sense, Lippi's Annunciation thus takes place within 2 Medici spaces, both physically in the palazzo it was commissioned for, but also within the painting itself. By depicting the Annunciation happening in a Medici residence, Lippi's panel makes quite an extraordinary statement about the importance of its patrons. suggesting that Christ's incarnation is taking place in a Medici-owned space, and by implication, placing the family at the centre of the history of Christian salvation. The Medici were no strangers to the power of art to publicise messages about their status and position in the public life of Florence, and Lippi's painting could perhaps be understood as another tool in their arsenal, promoting a further idea of the family's significance and esteem. If you're interested in learning more about the collection, you can click here or here. Thank you very much for watching, and we hope to see you next time.